Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, join the Discord that is linked down in the description, and check out the website, which is also linked down in the description. But in today's video, I do want to do a map of what the electoral map will look like in 20 years, say. So 2040, how is the electoral map going to look different? Well, this was the electoral map in 2016. 306 electoral votes for Donald Trump and 232 votes, electoral votes for Hillary Clinton. In this election, Donald Trump flipped Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, as well as Florida. So, he flipped a lot of states, especially these Midwest states. But, where did the current map kind of come into play? Well, I say it's around, the 2000 election. This is a very, plausible election, even by today's standards, with the exception of maybe Virginia and Iowa, for example. But the current map kind of took shape around the 2000 election. If we go back to 1996, there was a lot of states that went blue that would never go blue today. And there's some states that went red that would not go blue that would not go red today, such as Virginia. And we do look at how the map has changed. Well, we look at 2000, we compare it to 2004, it was pretty similar. Then we go to 2008, Obama kind of, broke a lot of those boundaries of the map, flipping states like Indiana, North Carolina coming very close in Missouri. So, he did a lot better in a lot of these areas, but the map was still generally very similar. 2012, with the exception of Indiana and North Carolina, was the same thing. And then 2016, as we saw here, the map changed yet again. So how will it change in another 20 years? So we do look at how things have changed so far. So this is the 2012 election. We see here, for example, a state like Georgia was won by Romney by 8 percentage points. We look at the state of Georgia in 2016, it was won by Trump by 5.1 percentage points. But where were the areas that changed? Well, we look at the areas that changed here. We see the change from 2012. These rural areas trended very Republican, and we see that, Republicans are at, upper 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s in some cases in a lot of these rural counties, whereas Democrats are really, not even cracking 50% in a lot of these suburban counties that trended very far towards the Democrats. And Atlanta is pretty much the only big city in the state of Georgia, and these counties, which have, hundreds of thousands of votes each, are trending towards the Democrats, and Democrats have a lot of room to go. This is kind of the big difference between the Sun Belt with states like Georgia, Texas, Arizona, and the Rust Belt with states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio. The rural areas in the Rust Belt are not, this in favor of Republicans, at least not in this election. But we look at the state of Michigan, for example, we see all these rural areas are very, very Republican. And we go back to 2012, a lot more of these areas were Democrat in 2012 than they were in 2016. And we look, all of these rural areas are trending towards the Republicans, and the areas that didn't trend as much towards the Republicans are these urban and suburban counties. We see, the WOW counties, for example, which are the, it is Washington County, Waukesha County, and Ozaukee County. Those counties trended towards the Democrats in 2016. So Democrats are gaining in these suburban areas, but losing big in the rural areas. So you see in these areas, Republicans don't have as much of the vote. They're in the 50s in a lot of cases in these counties, whereas I showed you they're at higher numbers in these counties. So even though the rural areas trended Republican, Democrats had a lot more room to gain in the suburban areas and less room to lose in the rural areas. That is why these states flipped towards the Republicans here. Florida's another great example of that. We look at Florida, we see what are the areas that trended. Well, it was these rural areas. The rural areas here up in the Panhandle. The suburban areas trended towards the Democrats, despite the state that despite the fact that the state trended Republican overall. So that is part of the reason the state trended towards the Republicans. But in the future, I'm expecting this trend to continue, because this is not just something that we've seen at the presidential level. Sure, Donald Trump has accelerated this trend, and he's made it, Georgia probably wouldn't have been at his position for another 5, maybe 10 years, but the point is that this trend still exists regardless of whether Trump's there or not. It exists for down-ballot Republican candidates because, the Republican Party is changing. They are not the same party that they were even just 10 years ago. They are changing their values, and, it's not just that, suburban college-educated people are changing their minds, the suburbs itself are changing. Who makes up the suburbs? They're a lot more diverse now, which is going to make them more blue. So they're growing a lot in population, and they're becoming a lot more Democrat. If that trend continues, which I expect it to, you will see a situation where, let's just make all these states safe Republican just for the sake of this. Let's say this trend continues. Well, a state like Georgia will become a Democratic state. A state like Arizona will also become a Democratic state. We look at the Arizona here, the rural areas, again, a little bit. There's not many rural areas in Arizona. Most of the state is made up by Maricopa County with Phoenix area. But the rural areas, sure, they trended towards the Republicans. But the main area that, basically runs the state, has 1.4 million votes, was formerly a Republican stronghold. Maricopa County was won by Donald Trump by 2.9 percentage points. It was won by Mitt Romney by almost 11 percentage points. This makes up most of the state. And Joe Biden is projected to win this county. I do think he will win this county. I do think he will win this state. And once that happens, Democrats are going to have 2 Democratic senators here, a majority of the congressional districts, and the presidential election under the belt. So at that point, Arizona basically becomes a blue state. Texas is another one of those states that is trending towards the Democrats. We look at the state of Texas here. We see how much these areas changed from 2012. Well, we see, look, for example, Rockwall County, trended towards the Democrats. Dallas County trended towards the Democrats. Tarrant County trended, big towards the Democrats. Collin County trended big towards the Democrats. And so did Denton County. It's the same thing down here in Harris County. Barack Obama won this county by 0.1 percentage points in 2012. Hillary Clinton won it by 13 percentage points. We look at, Collin County. This was a county won by Donald Trump by won by Mitt Romney by 32 percentage points. It was won by Trump by 27 percentage points. We look at Denton County, won by Trump by 20 points, won by Mitt Romney by 31 percentage points. Tarrant County, won by Mitt Romney by 16 percentage points, won by Trump by 8. So there's many, many examples of this. You can look at the same thing in Travis County, for example. It was won by Hillary Clinton by 38 percentage points. It was won by Barack Obama by 24 percentage points. And these counties are the counties that run the state. But when you look at these counties are all safe Republican. Even more safe than a lot of the Georgia areas. And sure, they're all small counties, but combined, they make up a large proportion of the state's population. And sure, it is still run by the suburban and urban areas, but these rural areas do make a difference. But there's not that much room for the Republican Party to gain. You can see they're cracking 90% in some of these areas. I think the average is probably somewhere in the 80s. And so if they do lose areas like Tarrant County, they lose areas like Williamson County, and they keep losing in areas like Fort Bend County and keep losing ground in Harris County, they are going to lose the state. And people are moving to the state. You have a lot of college-educated voters that are becoming more Democrat. The suburbs are changing, and that is going to have a big implication on the state. Now, I do want to talk about another state, and that is the state of North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is a state that has kind of conflicting trends. We can see it here. The state trended a couple points towards the Republicans overall, and so did the national environment. But we see that these big counties, the Raleigh area, the Greensboro area, the Charlotte area, trended towards the Democrats. Again, that is the same thing. The suburban counties, you can look at Virginia, see the same thing up here. All of these huge counties trending towards Democrats. But the rural areas, as you can see here, huge arrows, all trending towards the Republicans. That is especially noteworthy and notable in western North Carolina. We look at the areas like Mecklenburg County trending towards the Democrats, Cabarrus County trending towards the Democrats, Guilford County, Wake County, all of these Democratic counties that are trending towards the Democrats is going to make a difference, but Republicans still have room. You see a lot of light red here. Republicans still have room to gain in these rural counties. So, North Carolina is going to be a close state for quite a while, but I do think that these suburban trends will prevail, which could make North Carolina a more Democratic state. And Florida, I think, is going to remain a swing state for quite a while, to be honest. Republicans can continue to gain in some of these, central areas, even some of the areas in the Panhandle they can continue to gain, but Democrats can also gain in areas like Duval County, in areas like Hillsborough County and Pinellas County, and if they can, keep their big support base in the Miami-Dade area, West Palm Beach area, they are going to be able to win the state. But right now, I will leave it a Republican because it's going to remain, a bellwether for quite a long time. And looking at the Rust Belt here, another state on top of the Rust Belt here that could become more Republican is the state of Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is kind of, you could say it's similar to Georgia just on the basis that there is one major city, because really it is one major city, and the suburbs of these cities are trending towards the Democrats. You look at Hennepin County trending towards the Democrats, Carver County trending towards the Democrats, Ramsey County, Dakota County, Scott County even was pretty close. So these suburban areas, which again control much of the state, are trending towards the Democrats. But then you look at these, what's called the Iron Range here. We look at the Iron Range in 2012 here. We go to the state of Minnesota. We see that, a good amount of these counties up in the north here were blue counties, and even in some of these other surrounding areas of the state. And then we look at here in 2016, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 counties were Democrat. There's too many to count in the 2012 election. That's because of these rural areas trending towards the Republicans. And these rural areas can continue to trend toward the Republicans. They have still room to gain. And I do expect Minnesota to remain a swing state for quite a long time, but in the future, it's probably going to become more of a Republican state. Now, another state is, you're looking at this from the possibility of how can Republicans win. Another state is Maine at large. This Maine at large got a lot closer because of the white working class vote in Maine's 2nd district that trended towards the Democrats. You could say the same thing about the state of New Hampshire. Can Republicans keep shoring up those white working class voters in the rural areas? And if they can make inroads in some of these northeastern areas. But really, it comes down to Texas, because even if you want to say, sure, Republicans can win North Carolina, that's not going to be enough. Even if, they win Georgia, that gets them over the line. But, Georgia's not going to stay a Republican state by this time, I don't think. And you're also, projecting Nebraska's 2nd will probably be Democratic state. Depends how they, do it in redistricting. They probably will make it more Republican, so I will leave that as Republican for now. But really, it comes down to these 3 main Sunbelt states: Arizona, Texas, Georgia. Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, they're becoming more Democrat day by day, even though Republicans have won them in the past. Virginia is becoming a more Democratic state. California, even at this point, is becoming a more Democratic state. But then you look at this from the perspective of how can Democrats continue to win. They could even win Florida and North Carolina in this scenario, and then they're at 325. So Republicans are going to have to do something about this suburban trend. If they lose Texas, they're not going to be able to win an election again. If they lose Texas and Georgia and Arizona, really the only path to victory they have is like winning maybe, Oregon, Delaware, Connecticut. That is really, really, really stretching it. I don't think that's going to happen. And, maybe in 20 years, the electoral map will be completely different all around. The parties will probably be completely different as well. But this is what I see as a pretty likely scenario of what the electoral map will look like in 20 years from now. I could be wrong, and, in 20 years, you can come back and watch this video and see. But if current trends continue, I do believe this is a map that we could be seeing. So, thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, join the Discord that is linked down in the description, and check out the website, which is linked down in the description. So, again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.